going over to Zambia, Zambia's President Sata has stressed the need for the International Labour Organization and the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to work together and develop practical strategies for employment creation for the country. With that, the International Labour Organization is on a visit to the SADC region to launch the Green Jobs Project, which would see up to 5,000 new jobs created. For more, we are joined by Guy Ryder, Director General at the International Labour Organization. Guy, thank you so much for making the time to join us today. But of course, perhaps the biggest challenge that we're responding to on the continent is that of jobless growth. Where are we losing the game in this regard?
Yeah, so you just got out that, but I think you're asking me about the jobs challenge here in your region.
Yes, please go ahead and perhaps talk to us about the employment challenges, but also also the broader continental story where we're seeing economic growth, but without adequate levels of employment.
Well, that's exactly we face. We're seeing Africa recording really impressive levels of sustained growth in recent years. 5.5% and above, and I'm sitting in Zambia where the figure's about 7%. And that's great, but I do think that we have to ask if this impressive growth record is actually changing the lives of Africans. And what we're seeing is a sort of a decoupling, that is to say, growth goes ahead, and yet we're not creating enough decent jobs for lives, and we're not seeing human development indicators growing along with the economy. And I think to make that linkage between growth and social development, if we can call it that, we need to turn our attention to employment issues. And that's one of the things that the ILO is doing here with our partners in Africa.
Of course, Guy, you've just embarked on a region-wide visit, touching base at different points in the SADC region. From your interactions with the various government officials, are you confident that there is the political will and the appetite from the private sector to tackle jobless growth together?
Yeah, I find the political will is very much present. I've visited 3 countries. I've been in Tanzania, I've been in Mozambique, and now in Zambia. And in each case, I'm interacting with governments who are saying, look, we're determined to put employment at the center of our policies. We understand that we've got powerful motors in our economies, often in the oil sector, copper here in Zambia, hydrocarbons in the other countries. But we've got to work out the way to attach those locomotives of growth to the vast majority of our populations, and that means paying attention to the rural economy. We cannot forget about the rural economy. It means paying attention to informality. We believe that the road forward is formalizing informal work activity, and we need also to work out value chains. You know, this is Africa. Africa needs to add value. It needs to develop a manufacturing sector, labor-intensive, competitive internationally, which can give people real decent work opportunities. And at the same time, and it's linked to that, we need to put in place now real social protection laws. In Mozambique, in the ILO, we've done very important work with the government and with the International Monetary Fund. And the government is now rolling out for all of its population in really impressive ways. You know, these things may sound overambitious, but the fact of the matter is that under current circumstances, there's enough fiscal space in African countries to start making a reality of social protection, not just for the few who currently may have it, but for the vast majority of African citizens. This is an exciting time, and there's a great deal of potential in that regard.
Of course, Guy, we've spoken to you before about the Green Jobs program, particularly the work and the products that it's revealing in Zambia. But to what extent are you seeing the Green Jobs agenda becoming part of the mainstream policy options when it comes to employment creation?
You know, it's taken some time, but I think the message is there. I can remember even 10 years ago, I think people saw a contradiction. You had to either choose between creating jobs and economic growth. It seemed like it was one or it was the other. And I honestly think we've got over that. Now people understand, policymakers very much subscribe to the reality, which is if you want sustainable jobs, you have to make them environmentally sustainable themselves. They won't stay in the long term if they're not respectful of the natural environment. And as you mentioned, we launched a, for me, very exciting project on green jobs in Zambia this morning, our Finnish colleagues, which is designed to do a couple of things. Firstly, to create jobs in Zambia. We aim to create 6,000 jobs in the construction sector, and doing this by making micro and small enterprises more competitive through the use of technologies which are sustainable and green, and building into people's houses. And there's a big housing deficit here in Zambia. The sorts of green technologies like solar energy build sustainability into work processes, but also into people's living styles of life. So this is really a very exciting project. I think it does reflect, to answer your question, the fact that the green economy is going mainstream, and that's got to be good.